Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to play around a little bit longer with this loan management here, payment function specifically, in Google Docs spreadsheet. So I made this little loan calculator earlier. I'm going to go ahead and modify it again, go back down to a smaller loan. So I'll do a loan amount of, let's say, 9,000, interest rate of 11.9%. Number of years, I'll put down I'm going to go ahead and put down 3. Payments per year, I'll change that to 12. There we go. So my payment is calculated at just under $300. So what we can do here, let's just pretend for a moment this is a credit card that we want to pay off. We have a $9,000 credit card balance, which is really a loan. You've borrowed that money. The credit card interest rate is 11.9%. I plan to pay it off in 3 years, making 12 payments per year or 1 per month. So my payment in order to pay that off is going to be just under $300. Now over those 3 years I'll have ended up paying $10,745 on a $9,000 loan, which means in interest charges had to pay $1,745.97. There we go. So if you pay off this credit card debt over 3 years, you'll have to pay $1,745 in interest charges. If you were to pay off this same credit card debt in 2 years, you only had to pay $1,157 in interest charges, but of course you would have had to have paid about $423 a month. Obviously, if you pay it off even faster in 1 year, cost of financing is just under $600, but of course you'd have to pay $800 a month to pay it off over 1 year. Okay, so I'm going to go back to 3 years. And in addition to doing our payment calculator here, we can also create an amortization table pretty easily. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up in the columns adjacent to my calculator. And let's see, I'll go ahead and have the date I make the payment. And I'm also going to create interest, principal, and balance. Okay, so I'm just going to do 4 columns for this particular amortization table because a lot of my information is available over here on this calculator. And ideally, I'll create this amortization table so that I can modify numbers over here and my amortization table automatically gets updated. So for the date, let's see, it's currently May, so I'll go ahead and I'll go and type in May 1, 2011, and I'm going to type in June 1, 2011. So I'm just going to type in a couple months here. I'll select these 2 months, and then just like in Excel and Google Docs spreadsheet, I can go to the fill handle, which is in the lower right corner of a selected cell or selected range of cells, and I can click and drag down. And I went down a little bit off screen, but I dragged that down a bit, but now we can see it's month by month. Now your interest is going to be based off of your balance. So my balance here in May is going to be equal to my original loan amount balance. So I'll just plug that 9,000 in over there. Now when June comes along though, I'm going to make a payment on this. So let's see. In June, I'm going to have some interest calculation. And my interest is going to be equal to my interest rate. Actually, let me put it in parentheses. My interest rate, I'll type that one in, B2 divided by the cell that contains my number of payments per year. There we go. I'm going to take that monthly interest rate in this case, and I'm going to multiply it by my previous balance. There we go. So my interest charge for that first payment really is going to be $89.25. The principal is how much of your payment goes to pay off the actual debt. That's going to be equal to my payment minus the amount that went to interest. And I'll press enter. About $209. My balance at the end of that first payment is going to be equal to my previous balance minus the principal. Okay, now I'm not ready to autofill yet because I need to tweak these formulas up here and I need to use absolute references. Just like in Excel, absolute references are important. Whenever you have multiple formula referring to the same cell, then you want to use absolute references. And I'm doing that in a couple places. I've got several formula, or at least a couple, that are going to be referring to this particular payment cell, B5. I've also got a number of formulas that are going to be referring to my interest rate, which is up here in B2. So that's going to have to be modified. Now, just for a point of reference though, my first formula, so to speak, equals B1. This one's not going to be absolute. Since I'm only going to have one cell referring to B1, I don't need to make that absolute because the other cell refers to G2. So that'll be changing. But I do need to fix my interest. So I'm going to head over to my interest, and instead of just a regular B2, I'm going to put in $B, $2, divided by $B, $4. Now, when I press enter, it doesn't change that calculation at all, but now these are absolute references. G2 is still a relative reference. I'm referring to the balance in the previous month. That's going to be changing for each cell. Let's do something similar for principal here. The principal takes E3 and subtracts it from B5. B5 needs to be an absolute reference. So I'll put in $B, $5. So now we should be ready to go. So if I click on my interest cell, and I'll just drag that down a bit here, take my principal cell, drag that one down a bit, take my balance cell, and I'll drag that one down a bit. Now I've got a bunch of weird looking numbers here that look really big, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll select all of these, and I'll format them as, actually let me just do a format number, and I'll just round them. Makes them a little simpler to look at. So this is our amortization table. So basically month by month, the amount of our payments that go to interest will steadily be declining. Month by month, the amount of our money that goes to principal is steadily increasing, and of course that's what reduces our overall balance. And ultimately we'll get to a zero balance at the end of our third year. Okay, so after 3 years of payments, our balance will go down to 0.